But there's also a few other things have come to mind that I just really wanted to learn a little bit more about, because there's two subjects I think we haven't touched on yet, which is one, as a disabled golfer, what access do you have in terms of the equipment that you would have in the bag? And additionally, is from the coaching side as well, which is, not, coaching with disabilities is obviously very different to coaching people without disabilities. So you've obviously worked with a coach who you've referenced who was involved in that organization. So it sounds like you've had a great start in that respect. But to the layman, what would you say has been your experience with equipment, and then just moving on to coaching as well?
Yeah, I think with equipment, equipment can be a very difficult subject for people because, they've got to go and get custom fitted, which can cost an awful lot of money. Like, nowadays you've got drivers that are costing like 500 quid or something silly.
Yeah.
And if that, it's probably more nowadays. And obviously for one golf club, that's a lot of money. And like going back to what I said before, if there is a person with a disability and their parents are solely having to base their income on that need for their child with their disability, whether it's medicines or disabilities and wheelchairs and carers and all sorts, that can take a lot of their money and a lot of their time. So I think in terms of clubs, I think England Golf actually have a thing where you can apply to get, I think it's Ping Prodigy.
Okay.
Because I know a young lad with my condition, I think he's about 14 or 15, who's just applied for it and he's just got given the set. I think it's the England Golf Trust, and people can apply for it if obviously they're struggling to. But I think that is brilliant in itself, because it shows that even if you haven't got the money, you can still take golf
available. Yeah.
And there's something out there for them to go to and get the clubs needed. But in terms of coaching, obviously, I've got a coach at the Warwickshire at the moment, but I'm doing a college course for, and he's I think disabled certified, so he's done like extra training to coach people with disabilities. But obviously they're very they're just they treat you with a lot of respect, which obviously they should do, but also some coaches might not, because they might think, oh, somebody with a disability, no, I can't be bothered, I want to do somebody else who's an elite athlete or something like that. And again, it's going to like the club side of things. It's whether you've got it in your heart if you actually want to provide that for them. And that's different.
It's almost,
that needs to come from the top though as well. Whoever is leading in those clubs, they're the ones that got to be saying, okay, this is what we are, this is who we're about, this is who we're about, this is what we are, and then this is what we're going to provide, this is how we're going to meet everybody's needs, and it's going to be an equal club. It's really got to come from the top. It's all right, like you've said, it's got to be in the heart that they want to coach that person, but ultimately there's somebody there above them that is running that whole show that needs to say, no, this is what we do, this is the values of our club, this is how we operate. So I do think it's got to come from the top as well.
No, I think there's, it's almost, I think you could argue, I think it's got to come from not just the golf clubs themselves, but I think that as we talked about with Andy Little, is that there has to be that earlier introduction in schools.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it, you've, again, reflecting on your own experience, what you've described is that you've gone to your golf club, you've been introduced to this and to this charity, and your golfing journey has blossomed, and you've obviously been able to contribute to getting other people involved as well. But as a result of that, the golf club has then provided the facilities to sustain your involvement in that club. Whereas if the golf clubs don't have disabled people going to them or practice facilities, then there isn't really any need for them to do that. So it's almost like you need to make the introduction into golf earlier that facilitates the drive and growth. But as a result of that, the golf clubs would then need to, it's ultimately, do they need to react or be proactive in terms of setting, but you know what I mean? It's like, because if ultimately, if disabled golfers aren't going to golf courses, I suppose the argument from them would be, especially when funds might be quite low, is that what is the point? And that sounds a very very harsh thing to say, but I suppose that's the reality, isn't
No,
it?
I do think that they need to be proactive. It needs to be something that they, they sign up to, if you like, to say, yes, this is who we are and this is what we offer. And I do think then that more disabled golfers would come through, because they know that it's not saying it's a law or something or a legal requirement is the wrong way to go about it. But if they know that those golf clubs have to commit to providing relevant facilities for them, then it's not a question of whether those facilities will be there. They should just be able to turn up and those facilities are there. And if those facilities can't be provided immediately, then there should be an action plan put into place to say, okay, we do want you coming to our club. What do we need to provide to support your journey? How do we go about this? And, and whether that's like, well, the toilet is actually upstairs and that's not something that I can access right now. Okay, well, we need to put a plan in place to make sure that we've got facilities on the ground floor. Or like you said about the buggies and the buggy paths. Okay, well, this is something we need to work towards. So I think it's about initially, yes, they need to be proactive and they need to start themselves on that journey. But ultimately, they also need to listen to the people that are going there, and they need to be providing based on individual needs. And I know that's quite difficult, and that would provide lots of unique needs that need to be met, but overall that person is a patron of that club ultimately, and they might be a member of that club, and they need to make sure that they're meeting the needs of their members regardless of disability or ability. Do you agree?
100%. It's like you said, it should be coming from the top, and also the willingness for them to want to do it. Like the owner of my club, Hagley, as soon as I met him from day one, he was like, right, what do I need? What do you need to be able to play here? What do you want? And it should be like that at all clubs. It shouldn't be you going to the owner saying, right, where's the buggy path? Why aren't there any toilets on the ground floor? Yeah. Why is the range upstairs? Why is this here? Why is that there? There's no disabled car parking spaces, so on. And it shouldn't be the person doing that. It should be the owner going to them and saying, right, have we got, is everything okay? Is everything at your needs? Is there anything that isn't? Please let me know, or whatever. And then it's, and that puts a good reputation on that club as well, because it's showing that they're really keen to provide that support and that, the needs and the facilities for their members or visitors.
Yeah, it almost sounds like there needs to be disabled representation within each golf club. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I just feel like this has started a really, really interesting conversation, hasn't it? Because I think, again, I can only reference, my own experiences when I go into clubs, and I'll be honest, I've not seen a disabled player. I've not seen a disabled golfer, certainly in the local area where I play, or otherwise. And
I still think though, regardless, and I think, like I mentioned earlier as well, you've still got this white middle class male within the golf clubs, and not necessarily within the golf clubs, but within the media that they're displaying. So you go to the websites, and yes, they've got all these great photographs of, the members there and them playing in these competitions and things. But where are the juniors for a start? You don't see any pictures of the juniors on their websites and things. Where are the disabled golfers? How are they representing inclusivity? Where are their policies on that? Where are their plans of what they've put into place? Ultimately, how are they offering equality for all golfers? And I think that's important, that you want to, okay, so I want to start golf. I might have a disability and I want to find out what facilities are on offer. You would automatically go to their websites or go to their social media pages, and you would look for what they're offering. Now, if you're only seeing people that don't represent you, straight away you're going to be put off about from that. And then also, if you start looking around and you're looking, well, okay, well, what are they providing here, and how do I fit into all of this? And you're not finding those policies or those values, if you like, that commit to inclusivity within golf, equality within golf, then straight away you're going to be put off by that, and you're going to come away thinking, well, actually, maybe that's not the place that I want to go. There's nobody there that is representing me. There's nobody there that looks like me, and I'm just going to go and have a look somewhere else, kind of thing. Or like you said earlier, it might be, well, that's my local club and that's where I wanted to play, but I can't play there, so I'm just not going to play. and then you get put off. And a lot of the times as well, it's parents that are looking for local clubs for juniors. You know, how are the juniors being represented within all of that? You know, you go along, like I come to Isaac's golf course. I haven't come when he's actually playing competitions. You've obviously said there's other children there.
Yeah.
When I've been with Isaac, I haven't seen any other children there. And it's like, well, how is that the right environment for him when I'm not seeing anything that represents him there?
But I also think there's, again, just speaking about that, there's also a wider conversation to be had in terms of golf courses.
It's just getting wider and wider, this conversation.
It's something that, you know, as a brand, you know, and as an organisation, we want to be able to help spearhead that conversation. But I think that, you know, if we can try and contribute to the debate and help, you know, help sort of remove that stigma and get people involved, and that's you know,
I only want to produce a whole load of criteria now that golf clubs need to meet.
No, but I think I just want to backtrack again slightly to a conversation that earlier in the conversation, when you said the tees that you play off, because again, thinking of the complexities that disabled sport brings in terms of the, you know, the level of disability, as well as and again, I reference this with junior golfers, that, you know, Isaac has the option to play off the whites, the yellows, or the reds. And Isaac plays off the yellows, and nothing will change his mind, and that's fine. But in terms of, again, similar, there's no junior tees at a lot of clubs, and you're literally looking at a tee box. Would you say there would needed to be something done to promote a disabled tee in the same way to, you know, to again make I suppose make golf less intimidating certainly for new beginners?
I think there's also got to be an equality about it as well, though. Like you said before, there's some very, very good disabled golfers out there who aren't being represented, and you're not hearing as much about them. So I suppose, like Isaac's quite competitive and says, no, I'm playing off the yellow tees. I suppose there's also a lot of disabled golfers out there that would also say the same. They would say, well, actually, I don't need particularly special requirements. I'm going to compete against you because I know that I can compete against you.
I think that's kind of the attitude a lot of people have. So with regards to, I think if there was such thing as a disability tee, it would make them feel, I would say, quite not embarrassed, but do you know what I mean? That if I say, for example, the club said to me, oh, you have to play off a disabled tee, I'd be like, hey, you what? I'd be like, no, I want to play off the same tees as my competitors. But some people might find it really useful, but I think because of the attitude people with disabilities have in terms of their own backgrounds, a lot of them are very like, no, I want to be on the same playing field as my competitors.
Of course.
And they probably, if they wanted to, probably just play off the junior tees that they've got. Because a lot of clubs nowadays do have cadet tees, I think, dotted in the middle of the fairway somewhere. So obviously, if they are just literally starting golf and they don't think they wanted a little bit of an advantage, then they could probably just play off that. But I think just having a tee named specifically disabled tees,
of course,
they'd probably find that quite.
It's more, it's not encouraging.
Absolutely.
Probably, obviously, I like the sound of what you're saying, but it'd probably push them away because it would be like saying, "Oh, yeah, you've got to."
No, 100%. Yeah. I think in hindsight, what it probably wasn't. Just thinking out loud, what I was trying to describe is essentially you've got, like when I've been to courses, there are green tees for juniors. So what I mean is it's not necessarily a labelling of a tee. So you'd have you've got whites, you've got reds, you've got yellows, you've got greens. It's a colour essentially, but it's something that's going to provide people with the option to make golf less intimidating. So instead of a 500-yard par 5 hole, it might be 260 yards. Say, do you know what I mean? And I think it's that, because I think that we did an Instagram live Q&A with Golf Access, and we know that they do a lot of really good work in getting people into the game. And in essence, they start people from the greens backwards, you know, so they might feel that golf is really appealing to them, but to get a bag of clubs and just walk onto a course and see how long the holes are, it's obviously very intimidating at the same time. So it's in essence, what I'm trying to say is is providing, you know, a more formal tee structure that might encourage people not to be too put off by the by the length of the holes, essentially.
Well, yeah, I think with like juniors especially, a lot of them like just jump straight to the reds or jump straight to the whites or whatever, and it's like, and then as soon as they go onto that, they think, oh yeah, this is just a doddle. And as soon as they step on it, they're like, oh, okay, I've got to hit it 260 yards to make the fairway. Okay. Obviously, it can be quite daunting. So I think if they've got the option to play on either the cadet tees or the ladies tees, then obviously it's there for them to do it. But like I think Jade said, I think if you kind of saying, oh yeah, with the disabled tees, it's kind of like a little bit like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having the junior tees open to them to play on, to start from, or if they just want to play off them, then fair enough, they can do what they want. But as long as they want that option there to do it.
Definitely. In an ideal world, then, if we were to say, I don't know how long things will take to really, for the structure to be in place, to, for golf to be as inclusive as it possible, but as it possibly can be. What would be the first things that you would immediately look at to say, right, this is what a golf club needs to do to get it positioned right, to ultimately be supporting disabled golf as much as it can?
Yeah, I think going back to what I said before, a massive thing for me is buggy paths and making sure there are plenty of buggies accessible for people. So having buggy paths, and that's probably one of my main things. Every person I speak to say, like, if they've asked that question, I'd say, yeah, you need buggy paths. Make sure you got buggy paths, because then that opens a massive area for people to play golf. But as I said before, they don't have to be disabled. They can be seniors, they can be senior women, because obviously seniors can struggle to get around 18 holes because it's not just a 2-minute walk to the shop, it's 4 hours on a course, so it's a long time to be walking around. So obviously but yeah, I think for that, and also making sure that the staff at clubs are very accepting, because there's some times where I've been to a club in particular and the staff have been absolutely horrible in terms of rude, not wanting to help, and not wanting to try and provide those things. And obviously I've never wanted to go to that club again. So it's kind of things like that. So making sure your owners and your staff who are working there are providing that accessibility for the visitors and the members that they've got, and making sure that they treat them with respect as if they treat a family relative.
Yeah, it comes from the top, doesn't it? It's all of those things that should be implemented as part of that business ultimately.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of synergies, because I think that when we, again, just referencing back to the conversation that we had with Andy Little, is that when we were talking about golf in schools, it's almost like if there isn't anybody with a golfing experience in a school, then they can't start that conversation. And I suppose in the same way with the golf club, if you haven't got access, if you haven't got experience in working within a disabled environment or with, with people with disabilities, then you might not know where to start. And it's almost like there needs to be that, that it needs to come from a real experience and knowledge base in order to be able to spearhead that, the strategy to put things in place that, that promotes inclusivity across all levels.
I think like that, I think, whether in the future it is England Golf that do it or the R&A, obviously those two organisations are massive in themselves. Like England Golf's a governing body of amateur golf in England, so obviously can't get much bigger in terms of the representation of golf. So obviously if England Golf did set out a criteria to all clubs saying that you've got to have this to make your club friendly for people, for seniors and people with a disability, then obviously that's something that I think really needs to be done. In terms of if England Golf can do that, that obviously be really good, because obviously there's loads of golf clubs around England, but you could go to one golf club, it'd be absolutely brilliant with facilities, and then go to the other, they haven't got a single buggy at their club. So it's just things like that. And I think if England Golf set out that criteria saying, you need this, you need that, you need to do this, you need to do that, and if you haven't, you need to do it. If you can't afford it, then we can fund it for you. And just things like that, it will make a massive difference, I think.